So everyone's driving the new Group 3 Porsche, and I tested that one last time. But the old Porsche is still a great car, isn't it? Well, I'm going to test its acceleration, top speed, tyre wear, fuel consumption, performance under BOP on different tracks, upshift points and brake balance. That's right, I'm going to do the work so you don't have to. Coming up. Hello again and welcome to any newcomers. This time out we are testing the RSR 991 Porsche, or the old Porsche as I'll call it. This video has been requested by Evil Doc, but because I don't know how evil Doc is, I thought I'd better get it done. Thanks for your request. First up, I'm testing the acceleration on this car over 5 separate runs. On each run I upshift at a specific point on the rev bar to establish how to get the fastest time out of it. This first run is not a good start at 28.389. For true comparison between the cars, there must be a strict format and rules so that you can be confident that all of the cars have been tested as equally as possible. Settings for this test are equal conditions on, BOP on, medium racing tyres with tyre wear set at ×1, fuel consumption at ×1 with 100 litres in the tank. All assists are off and all the car settings are off, including the brake balance. The time for this run is 28.221. Rules for the actual test are that each run must start after one single outlap so that all the cars have the same fuel weight and tyre wear. Each run must start in the left lane at the start line and stay in that lane until the first split. Fuel consumption is showing on the HUD for 1 lap evidence. Regulars to GT7 will know that this Porsche is slow off the line, and there's not much improvement here with 28.114. Knowing when to upshift your car matters in GT7. Watching these comparison videos is a small time investment for your success on the track. After the 5th run I'll show you the leaderboard with massive time variations for each car. I refer to these cars as either short shifters, standard shifters or full revvers. The time for this run upshifting at 100% is 28.090. 100% on the rev bar is about 8,400 revs for this Porsche, and it tops out at 9,000 revs. So to get full revs from it without losing time, I'm aiming for about 8,900 revs on the rev counter on the right of the display at the bottom of the screen. Like the new Porsche in the last video, there is once again no rev counter for those with VR. You'll have to watch the blue blinking LEDs at the top of the dash. The higher the gear, the more you can let them blink before topping out. This is the quickest run for the RSR with my pedal to the metal on launch, but it's still a very slow 27.986. So the old Porsche sits rock bottom on this table so far, removing the shame from the new Porsche. The new Porsche did go on to return some excellent data from this point onwards, so you can expect more from the old one. The board is looking quite full of full revvers now, and most of them gain a tenth from revving beyond 100% on the rev bar. Knowing this can improve your best laps by half a second or more. Take your time to check the data and continue when you're done. Next up is the first of 2 top speed tests, and this one is measuring flat out top speed. This test is carried out as special stage Route X because it has the longest straight in the game. The first side of this enormous oval ring goes uphill and then the cars gain speed going back downhill. After that they gradually slow back down to their natural top speed. Because this takes a while and it might be boring to watch, I speed up the footage until the final 1,000 metres. Settings for this test are equal conditions on, BOP on, soft racing tyres with tyre wear off, fuel consumption at ×1 with 100 litres in the tank, car settings including brake balance are off, assists are off and penalties are off. Rules for all cars in this test are to upshift at the fastest point established in the acceleration test, to show the full run as evidence that the throttle hasn't been lifted, to show the fuel evidence on the HUD, and to take the speed reading at the 10,000 metre gate if the speed has settled. If the speed hasn't settled in the final 600 metres, I continue to the back straight to take a reading there where it's flat. The current fastest car for this run is still the McLaren with 284 km/h. This Porsche RSR stays at 280 km for the final 1300 metres of the test. So 280 is the speed that I take to the leaderboard. Not much to show you on this leaderboard as I seem to be selecting all of the cars that have exactly the same top speed. The old Porsche sits joint second with 5 others and we need something a bit different to mix it up a bit. Luckily I run a second top speed test to separate the wheat from the chaff, so let's move on there now. The second top speed test is used to establish how quickly these cars can complete a lap at Daytona trioval circuit. The focus is on which cars can maintain high speed while turning, and the footage starts at the end of the outlap and the beginning of the hot lap. Some cars lose speed more than others through high speed cornering, and this track allows me to keep my foot flat to the floor all the way round. As I go around the corners you will see the speed drop off slightly. Settings are exactly the same as the last top speed test for this one. Rules for all cars in this test are to complete only one single outlap to get up to speed before starting the timed lap, to accelerate to top gear using the fastest upshift points in the acceleration test, to stay as close to the yellow line on the inside of the track as possible, to switch to roof view to help keep the car off the yellow line while staying close to it, and to show fuel consumption on the HUD as evidence of just one outlap. The old Porsche completes this hot lap in 52.215. On the leaderboard we expect the McLaren to be top as it's 4 km/h quicker. The old Porsche slots into 5th place just behind the new Porsche with just about 0.03 of a second between them. As you look at this board, just bear in mind that all of the cars from 2nd right down to 7th all share the same top speed of 280 km/h. When you consider that I had my foot flat to the floor around the whole lap for all of these cars, it shows which ones hold their speed best round fast corners. Next up we have the first of 3 balance of performance tests. On this one I'm testing a low speed BOP and I use a Sardegna B layout for it. GT7 applies low speed BOP settings to all of the cars when they are racing under BOP restrictions on these displayed tracks. Settings for all 3 BOP tests are equal conditions on, BOP on, medium racing tyres with tyre wear set to ×1, I have 100 litres of fuel with usage set to ×1, car settings are all off except for brake balance, assists are off except for ABS which is set to default, and penalty settings are off except for shortcut penalties. To ensure fair fuel usage and tyre wear, each stint is no longer than 11 laps including an out lap. I usually do 3 or 4 stints per session to achieve the optimum times. Each stint starts with a full tank and fresh tyres. Optimum times may appear much quicker than the best lap times because of all the different combinations I've tried during the session. Brakes are quite good and so is the grip on low speed corners, but you have to be careful with the throttle to avoid oversteer on the exits. I'm not really happy with the lower end of 3rd gear as it's too slow if I short shift from 2nd. It definitely feels better to feather the throttle rather than upshift to 3rd. I found good time in -2 and 0 brake balance, but I was fastest at -1, so that seems to be the range here to suit your driving style. So the old Porsche finishes with an optimum time of 1 minute 20.392. Look how far I have to turn my head to see the HUD in this car. I must say that I'm very impressed with the old Porsche RSR on this track. I haven't really driven this car much because the in-car HUD is difficult to see traffic on when you drive in VR. It's only in 4th place, but there's no time between 4th and 2nd. The new Porsche is on its own up top, but all of the top four look elite when you consider the gap back to the other four. Let's move on to the next one. For the mid-speed BOP test I use the Road Atlanta circuit. GT7 applies mid-speed BOP settings to all of the cars when they are racing under BOP restrictions on these displayed circuits. If you've watched more than one of these comparison videos, you will have noticed that I say a lot of the same things at the same times throughout them. This is to save time. The main reason you're here is to compare these cars between one another. When I started making these videos, the reason they took so long to make is due to the testing, the editing and the script. The testing is the important part and the editing is essential. The script is to give you confidence that the tests are legitimate, and the repetitive generic parts are for the new viewers to understand what it's all about. Being able to reuse test format scripts allows me much more time to get on with testing the next one rather than writing a whole new video every time. Once again I'm using -1 brake balance for this one. 0 is also very good, but I felt a little more stable on -1. And -2 needed a bit too much throttle control to counter the oversteer. The brakes don't feel as good on this track with heavy braking points on the downhills, and I want more front end grip. This is a lovely smooth car to drive though. It's fast round the corners too, as long as revs are kept relatively high. The old Porsche finishes this session with an optimum time of 1:19.193. Maybe someone can tell me what that funny white pipe is poking out of the dashboard. So there's only 1/10 of a second between the top cars here, with the new Porsche leading the way. The old Porsche is in 5th place, but there really is nothing between them. Following that we have the 3 cars that are not so happy being thrown around Sector 1 on Road Atlanta. So far the old Porsche RSR is holding its own and showing up well on most of these leaderboards. It might not be top, but it's staying close as part of the top group. Let's see what it can do on the final BOP test. For the high-speed BOP test I use the main Daytona circuit. GT7 applies high-speed BOP settings to all of the cars when they are racing under BOP restrictions on these displayed tracks. Whether you're looking for a car for a new week of dailies, a new season in a private league, a weekend tear up with your mates, or a new manufacturer's season, there is something for everyone in these videos. I started doing these tests just because I couldn't find this info for myself after recent BOP updates. My DR is high A/low A+, so my optimum time should give you a fair assessment of the cars. These BOP tests should be considered as equal comparisons from one driving style rather than driving tips or lap guides. All of my tests are completed in lobby mode so that BOP can be applied and tested with fuel weight, and so that optimum times are reset after every session. The longer gear ratios on this old Porsche really help it on this track, allowing me to keep the revs high around Sector 1. I was getting too much oversteer when I wanted to floor it with -2 and -1 brake balance, so I found better time eventually with +1. At +1 I feel that I'm on the border of losing front end grip, so I left it there. I've been really impressed with the performance at Daytona, as I didn't expect as much as this car has given me. It's a little more edgy than the new Porsche, like a little brother prone to mood swings, but I've enjoyed driving it nonetheless. The RSR Porsche finishes this session with an impressive optimum time of 1:47.172, which is up there with the best of them so far. So the old Porsche enters this table in a brilliant second place behind the immovable Corvette. It's only 3/1000ths quicker than the Lamborghini and 2.5 hundredths quicker than the new Porsche. If you're wondering why the old Porsche beats the new Porsche on this track but nowhere else, then I think I know why. The new Porsche has the same weight across the board on all the BOP tracks, but the old Porsche weighs 1330 kilos on the low speed BOP, 1320 kilos on mid speed BOP, and only 1310 kilos on the high speed BOP. In turn, it was 4/10ths off the new Porsche in the low speed, 2/10ths off the new Porsche in the mid speed, and it's fractionally ahead here. I knew I'd find something to justify this car not being finished. Let's move on. Finally, we're at Brands Hatch for the final two tests rolled into one. For these tests, I'll be driving continuously from the pits until one of the tyres is worn. From that moment, I'll work out how long the tyres have lasted and how much fuel I've used. Fuel consumption and tyre wear are a massive part of racing and should be a massive part of your thinking when selecting a car for certain events. It can be the difference between making one stop or two. Settings for this test are equal conditions on, BOP on, soft racing tyres and tyre wear set to 5. Fuel tank is full with 100 litres and consumption is set to ×3. Car settings are all off except for brake balance. All assists are off except for ABS, which is set to default, and all penalty settings are off. Rules for all the cars is to drive them as I would race them based on learnings from all of the previous tests. The car should be driven fast but not fast enough to risk going off track, and I'll show the fuel consumption on the HUD as evidence. For this car that means trying to keep the revs high, trying to upshift at 8,900 revs, and using zero brake balance as 0 is right between -1 and +1 that I used on the BOP tests. This test is a long one and speeding up the video is terrible to watch, so I cut out the middle part and I return when the tyres are nearly worn. I'm back on the final lap and the front left only has a couple more corners to go. Of all the cars that I've driven on this track so far, I think that this is the one that I dislike the most. I haven't spun out or left the track, but I've been on edge for most of it. Anyway, nearly there now as I'm going to be pulling up on this next bend. As you can see from the windscreen at the top, we're on the 9th lap, meaning that we've completed 8 so far. The arrow on this graphic shows where I've pulled up, confirming that I've completed 8.6 laps. This is not good for the old Porsche as it places it joint 6th on this leaderboard, which is really bad tyre performance compared to those above. At the bottom right hand corner of the in-car HUD, and when I've stopped looking around, you can see that I have 58% of fuel left. That means I've used 42%, and as I started with 100 litres, that means I've used 42 litres of fuel. So 42 litres divided into 8.6 laps means that the RSR Porsche is using 4.88 litres of fuel per lap on this track. That usage puts it into 4th place, which is actually very good compared to some of the others. That just about wraps it up for this one. If you appreciate the work, then please support this growing channel by liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing. I appreciate you for watching and see you on the next one.